Athletic training is so simple. These are the only 5 exercises that athletes need. All these plyometrics and stuff look good for the camera, but I promise you we can do better than this. Every single exercise you do should be done with the intentions of improving your power outputs. Because without this, there's no becoming an athlete.
It's over 9,000! 9,000?!
You can even check one of my videos detailing why power outputs are key to becoming an athlete. FYI, this video is not really for throwing athletes. I don't specialize or practice throwing in any way. I'm mainly here for the people who want to run and jump higher. So without further ado, let's get into the list. Now we're going to start with the hardest exercise on the list. Starting with number 1, we're going to have sprints. Now, although these make you feel like throwing up sometimes, most of the times, and it's really intense on the body, and after a couple sets you just feel like dropping on the floor, these are the highest velocity activity on my list, and it doesn't mean that it lacks power, not at all. Sprints are probably one of the top 3 most intense exercises you can perform on the body. This is because you have to maintain a high intensity for a long period of time, up to a minute if you're doing 400s, which I only go up to 200, so good luck to anyone doing any of that. Like, that ain't me. I can't express this enough, but when you're sprinting, being fresh is probably one of the most important things, because if you're doing any distance above 60 meters and you're not fresh, then you're probably going to be wasting your time because you're not meeting the outputs required to actually make adaptations to your speed. By practicing in distances between 100 and 400 meters, it will help your conditioning while also building muscle. Now, you might think this is overkill, but 5 to 8 minutes of rest between sets is probably ideal for these, especially if you're not conditioned. Now, for training in distances between 40 and 100 meters, this is great for you jumping athletes because it takes out the cardiovascular aspect and you can focus on just the raw power outputs. Now, the primary movers and sprinters will be your posterior chain, so glutes, hamstrings, calves. But once you're training in rep ranges, distances below 60 meters, then your quads can really take over. Athlete or not, you should be sprinting about every other day, maybe 3 times a week. If everyone did this, there would be like financial pressure in Thailand from the lack of BBL sales. Now at exercise number 2, we have squats. Now this is probably one of the most underdeveloped muscle groups for athletes, and this is because their sport usually doesn't allow them to load the quads as heavy or as intense as they need to spur adaptations. Even though quads are useful in most sports, it's just you have to work on them off the court to actually develop them. Now, in my personal opinion, you should be squatting 2 to 3 times per week at least. Yeah, I think 2 to 3 is a good number. 2 to 3 times per week. Now, there are many variations of squatting, and believe me, most of them are just noise. Like, just forget about most of them. I've done them all: pistol squats, sissy squats. I used to do even Bulgarians, all that stuff. But the only variations you need are back squats, front squats, and I guess Bulgarians are good for if you're a 1-foot jumper. But those are the only 3 variations I would even consider for training intensely, because most of the other variations, they don't allow you to train intense enough to actually adapt. Now at number 3, we have my favorite exercise. Y'all ain't ready for this. Jumping. Now, I do this for a living, eventually, but this is probably the most stressful exercise on your joints. See how sprinting is the most stressful on your body, but this is just the most stressful on your joints. Jumping ground contact times can be as low as 150 milliseconds in the long jump. The stress this can cause your tendons is absurd, as only your tendons can handle forces at such velocity. Now if we go to the other end of the spectrum, your standing vertical can have ground contact times of 3/4 of a second. In fact, this gives you enough time for your muscles to be the actual primary movers of the exercise instead of your tendons, specifically your quads and your glutes. If you are more on the velocity side of the spectrum, you will need less volume and more intensity. And if you are on the slow side of the spectrum, like we were just talking about with your standing vertical, you can handle more volumes, and even if it's not at the highest intensity, as long as you get good hypertrophy in, you will still see improvements in your vertical. You can even see bodybuilders tend to have a high standing vertical, as more mass equals more force. I'm getting hungry, not gonna lie. Teaching y'all is just like squatting, there are many different variations for different times and purposes, but you can't get caught in the noise. You have to know when to use what tool at what time. For example, most people lack the ability to handle eccentric forces, and if you're anything like me, you've tried box jumps at some point, or you've seen John Morant and you tried the infamous tire hops. But this exercise usually isn't the right pick for most people, as this works more concentric strength, because it takes out the eccentric part of the movement, which is landing. I think it's better overall to focus on eccentrics, especially if you're a beginner. Now, if we're talking about depth jumps, which this will improve your eccentric capacity, and you're training at a higher intensity because you're adding depth to the jump, making it harder than actually just jumping. And if you have watched any of my videos, intensity is the key to improving your power outputs, which will lead you to becoming a better athlete. You should be jumping once or twice per week. Now, just like sprinting, if you do these too much, it can have a diminishing return, because you have to reach a certain level of power outputs to actually spur an adaptation. So just keep that in mind. People often forget how important hip flexion and extension is. If you look at any athlete, hip extension is important in the starting phase of sprinting, for example. Or if you're jumping, the penultimate step, you will have to engage in hip extension to push off. Now, if we want to improve these, there are many exercises you can do. I wouldn't say the options are as many as squatting and jumping, but you still have a lot of options. It's hard to pick just one for this because you want to improve your hamstrings while improving your glutes. And for example, if we have, my favorite go-to are hyperextensions, but these don't, let's just make this an honorable mention because these don't target the glutes, but they will hit your hamstrings really hard. But if I were to pick one, it would be trap bar deadlifts, because this can be applied to a lot of athletes, whether you're playing basketball, football. This position is just really strong and a position that a lot of athletes hit. So I think it's important that we are strong in this position. And the reason why I'm not saying a full deadlift like from the floor is because that position isn't really common to be in unless you're, I don't even know what sport you're getting that low for. So I used to train deadlifts, but I don't think they're as necessary anymore or ever were to begin with. But I think it's good if you just want to build general strength, but trap bar deadlifts I would go for if you want overall glute and slight hamstring strength. And the great thing about trap bar deadlifts is that you can also add a jump to the exercise to increase the power outputs and the velocity of the exercise. I would only do this once you can trap bar deadlift at least 2 plates. I wouldn't start getting into all the jumping and stuff too early. But yeah, trap bar deadlifts overall, I think it's a solid pick. At number 5, we have calf raises. Now, this is another neglected exercise, because usually people, even bodybuilders, people in general, because it's one of those easy exercises, you leave it for last. Now, the problem with this is that it leads to it being skipped a lot of the times. And it's funny because it's the easiest muscle group to actually improve, because it takes the least effort and it's the least painful exercise, you know? And for a while, I actually skipped calves because I was so focused on training quads, I forgot about my calves. And now my calves are behind. So, I mean, I like that they're behind because it's the easiest to improve. So I'm excited to improve those in the next couple months. But you want to be, especially if you're a 1-foot jumper, you want to be squatting calf raising at least in the 300s, you know? It's no joke the numbers you have to put up in your calves. And across any and all sports, calves are going to be a crucial muscle group. So don't skip out on calves. You can also even point your toes inwards. So see, I'm straight. If I point inwards, a lot of athletic positions, your feet will, if you look at your video of you jumping, running and stuff, your ankles have a tendency to point inwards. That's just something I've noticed. So it doesn't hurt to improve your strength in that range of motion as well. And you can also do isometrics to increase your tendon thickness in your Achilles, because that's also a crucial tendon in the human body, the thickest tendon in the human body to be exact. I hope this list can help you guys out in picking your exercise selection, because a lot of the stuff you see is just noise. Like, you just gotta ignore that stuff. Like the stuff on Instagram that you see, all those fancy plyometrics, a lot of the times that stuff is just for show, really. And I used to be caught in that trap, and when I realized that it's just power outputs, that's all that matters, that's when I started shifting my focus to more weightlifting. I still do my plyometrics, but I just do more dunking and sprinting for plyos, and then the rest I do lifts. I am also starting a Discord. I'm not sure if it will be ready by the time I release this video. I hope it is. But if it's ready, it will be in the Discord below, in the description below. I want to make a Discord for anybody who wants help improving their athletic performance, as I also needed help at one point and I had no one to reach out to. Everywhere I went on YouTube, there wasn't good information at the time. It's a lot better now, but I just want to build a community for anybody who wants to improve, and we can all share information together. I even have more to learn, so I'm hoping to build a community on Discord where we can all just chat it up. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next video.